Joining us for the Annapolis Faceoff this week are Delegate Julian Ivy, a Democrat from Prince George's County, and Delegate Matt Morgan, a Republican from St. Mary's County. Gentlemen, thanks to both of you for being with us. Delegate Ivy, you have a bill in on elections, House Bill 153. What would that do?
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for having me today. House Bill 153 would send a ballot to every registered voter across the state in primary and general elections. It's very simple. It'll ensure that every single individual, every registered voter has access to our ballot in the upcoming elections.
Viewers may be thinking, we had that last year.
That's right.
What would the law change?
Well, last year, we were in some special circumstances. And so this would just maintain some of those changes that were adopted in 2020 for the upcoming election cycles as well.
Delegate Morgan, how do you see this?
I don't like that bill at all. I mean, to be blatantly honest. I mean, we talk a lot about access, but we deny the fact that, Joe Biden got 81 million votes from his basement. The biggest problem is it's not access, it's election integrity. And that's where we really need to be focusing our resources on. A recent Rasmussen poll said that 70% of Republicans thought there was problems that occurred in the presidential election that just passed. But worse yet, in the same poll, 30% of Democrats said that there was issues.
Well, let me ask this.
Trust involved in the process. I mean, this is the problem with election integrity. And this is really what is the threat to democracy.
But in the state of Maryland, was there a problem with election integrity? Was there fraud?
Well, we did something very similar to this. We did something very similar to Delegate Ivy's bill just this last primary. And we had almost 35,000 votes thrown out. Now think about this, Jeff. 35,000 ballots were cast aside. That's more votes than occurred in 18 counties and more votes than that voted for me and Delegate Ivy combined in our general election. I think that's wrong. We have no idea if more ballots were not up to par. This is a real problem. Voter integrity, people across Maryland are concerned about that. And we, as elected leaders, we should be doing stuff to reassure them of this. We passed this mass mail-out voting is what this bill is last year because of COVID. COVID's not going to exist when next election comes around, and we should be focusing on integrity.
Well, but was there, Delegate Ivy, go ahead.
Yeah, what my colleague, Delegate Morgan, is failing to bring up is the fact that our State Board of Elections has already told us that there is no widespread evidence of voter fraud. Instead, what we've been told is that more individuals participated who haven't been participating in the past. And I think that that's the goal of our democracy.
But Delegate Ivy, the key word there is widespread. I don't know what the antonym of widespread is, but was there any small scale election fraud?
No, there were a handful of individuals who attempted to vote after they'd already been mailed a ballot. They ran into some issues there. But again, our state prosecutors would be referred any of these allegations and they would pursue them. However, there's been no lawsuits, no widespread allegations of voter fraud. And I think that that's very significant for us. And I'd also like to encourage my colleague to think about ways that we could better our system using legislation rather than looking to spread misinformation.
Well, I'm not spreading misinformation. I mean, that's on the Board of Elections website. We can disagree about the facts, but facts don't really care about your feelings. And 35,000 ballots were tossed out last year during this same process.
Well, I don't know necessarily about the process, but Delegate Morgan, the key thing is, were any fraudulent ballots counted?
I don't know. Do you? Do you know? So let me just say that the voter rolls in Maryland are bloated at best. You have some non-citizens already vote in areas like Prince George's County. You have, third-party agencies that are out there ballot harvesting. Look, this is just ripe for fraud. And like I said, the main, the polling, the perception is integrity right now in our election process. I mean, we've had that polled. So I don't know why we're using the excuse of the virus to continue down this path of mass ballot. You know, this isn't about access. This isn't about increasing voter turnout. It seems like it's about pure, you know, winning. This is about controlling and enhancing raw political power.
Delegate Ivy, what do you think it's about? And secondly,
sure,
do you see any added risk in sending out ballots? Because yeah, you're sending them to somebody who may have moved, you're putting it in people's hand for a longer period of time. And are there any protections in the bill about that?
Well, absolutely. Every year, the State Board of Elections does go through our voter rolls to make sure that we have individuals on the rolls that accurately live where they say that they live. Delegate Morgan mentioned that, or said in Prince George's, we have individuals who aren't allowed to participating, and it's not true.
No, I didn't say that.
The only individuals who are able to participate, who are not citizens of the United States or you know, legalized citizens, things of that nature, are individuals voting in municipal elections, like in my small town of Cheverly and in Mount Rainier as well.
Right. Yeah, I don't want any misconceptions. That's what I said. You have non-citizens already voting in some capacities in Prince George's in municipal leagues. That's correct.
Sure.
Anything that you take away from last year's experiment with this? It seems like it was popular with voters. I mean, voters used mail-in voting and absentee voting in droves.
And I think that's the important piece for us to remember. This is about encouraging individuals to participate in our democratic process. And this has actually been very successful at doing just that. So while I'm committed to working with all of my colleagues to ensure that we do have, you know, secure and safe elections, I also do need to make sure that individuals are willing to work across the aisle to increase turnout across the state, even if that means that individuals who don't typically come out in support of different parties are coming out with higher turnout levels.
And Delegate Morgan, on the convenience side, is it especially convenient for people who might be in a rural community like St. Mary's County, as opposed to having to drive somewhere on election day? You drop it in the mail.
Look, to me, election day is a day of symbolism. We're all come out together and we're going to choose our elected leaders. And this is so important because this is what at the heart of democracy. It's about a day where we come together. Look, over the last 10 years, Democrats in Maryland have been very successful at changing election day into election months. And it drags out for almost forever. This isn't about access. What needs to be focused on is election and integrity. And that's how democracy, look, the reason why we had so many peaceful transfers of power in this country for the last 160 years is voters know that they can go to the ballot box, and if they don't like what government's doing, 2 years later, they can go and make their change. But if they have distrust in our election process, that's not good for our country. It's not good for our state.
You know, and I actually
exacerbates that.
And I agree with my colleague here, but I think that we as elected officials have a responsibility to defend our fair and free elections. There's no evidence of voter fraud here in the state of Maryland, across the nation as well. Rather than buying into some of these talking points that actually caused an insurrection on our nation's capital, I think that we as elected officials should be doing our part to ensure that individuals do believe that the elections do have integrity and that they're fair.
Before we go, Delegate Ivy,
Jeff, before we go, hold on, Jeff. Before we go, Paterson, New Jersey did this exact same thing last year, and they end up throwing out 1 out of every 5 ballots. 4 people end up going to jail or being arrested, including a councilman. So this isn't like a one-off deal where I'm spreading rumors and nothing's ever happened. It's happened a lot in a lot of different places. The reasons why we put this inland last year was because of the virus. If the virus is not here, there's no reason to continue with it.
Delegate Ivy, last word on this. Why should people be able to trust that this would be safe?
Absolutely. This is safe. It's been implemented in other states across the nation. Some states only vote by mail. This is not what that bill is looking to do. You'll still be able to vote on election day at your typical polling precinct, but each and every registered voter across the state would be sent a ballot And I think that it's important that we do just that.
Gentlemen, we have to leave it there. Delegates Ivy
Awesome.
and Morgan, we appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.